Hi guys, I know I kind of have been gone on hiatus for a while. I'm human. I don't make any excuses. I kind of tried to stay off this social media, anything, during everything that's been going on. There's been a lot. There's a lot of panic, there's a lot of worry out there, and that's why I wanted to talk to you guys about Jupiter today. A lot of the focus has been on Saturn, Pluto, and Mars, which, traditionally speaking, are malefic planets. They're the bad guys in astrology. But with everything going on, we have Jupiter kind of tied in there with them. Jupiter's a good guy. He's your benefic planet. He's luck, he's expansion, he's growth, he's your higher mind. So instead of falling into the media saying this, everyone's doing that, this is where we kind of can get our definition on let's do some critical thinking. The reason I want to bring him up specifically is he's kind of all over the place in transits, and I don't really like to dwell in the negatives. To me, Jupiter is a good funnel for this energy to get moving forward and growing and expanding, so on and so forth. Jupiter is almost directly conjunct Pluto. I'm going to adjust myself real quick. It's almost directly conjunct Pluto, and that's actually coming up pretty fast. People hear Pluto and kind of get nervous because Pluto can be death. He's Hades in Greek mythology, but it's not just death. The biggest theme that I often find with Pluto is transformation. As everyone's aware, as everyone's been watching, we've had all this stuff in Capricorn, and all of our so solid public structures are just crumbling. Saturn and Mars and Pluto together have been a proverbial earthquake and taken everything that, yes, it may or may not have been working for us before, but is losing its time and shaking it to the ground. And it's not done. It's still going through that. Jupiter, whatever it touches, is abundance. So it's being right next to Pluto, it's an abundance of transformation. We've got everything changing right now. And even if it doesn't feel like anything, it's still a lot. But you take those changes, you take these rebirths, these transformations, in however way you take them. So you can take all this stuff falling apart as something crazy and scary, or you can take it as this is a modem for change. Nothing is going to go back to the way it was just normal. And I mean, in my opinion, that's kind of good. I mean, we were living on an outdated frame. Now it's time, especially with Saturn coming into Aquarius, to use this abundance of transformation and find good transformations to set us up for the future, because we're not what we were when all these things were put in place. So now it is time to change. We just had a new moon yesterday. It was also square to Pluto. So there was a lot of kind of angsty, not so nice things going on. But being in Aries, that's our I am. So we had a square between these changes and everything that's going on, everything we thought we knew, to, the sun conjunct Chiron in Aries. So our wounds, our egos, the square of transportation between who we are. And I know it's kind of silly. A lot of Aries people have been stuck inside on their birthdays, but that was a big one for them to look in and let's pay attention to who I really am, and collectively. And sometimes that can bring out some of the more negative things. But anyway, moving aside from that, that's one thing I wanted to talk about is the Jupiter-Pluto-Mars conjunction. It doesn't touch the sun, and it doesn't touch Chiron. So where we're trying to find abundance of transformation, you got to leave your ego and your wounds out of it. You got to be able to come into it with an open heart. And that's kind of where I believe this Jupiter sextile off to Neptune goes. You've got to look deeper, look spiritual, look at not just this looser Aries version of I am, but you got to look into your subconscious of who you are. We also have a Jupiter is trying to Venus right now. So, and then, like I said, Mars is in that conjunction. I'm going to come back to Venus in a second. Mars being conjunct Jupiter is also really kind of fortunate. It can be an abundance of anger. I'm not going to lie to you guys. You can feel super angsty right now, but that's kind of moving away. It can also be an abundance of motivation, and it can be an abundance of energy and go and get it. So where we have these things that are institutionalizing change, we also have the motivation to go out and seek it. And then with the trine to Jupiter, I feel like when you harness these things properly and in positive ways, you're going to end up finding positive things back out of it. So when you really look in and you embrace that I'm not going to be able to hold things the way that they were, and I'm going to have to change, that's when you start finding the good things out of it. It may be harder to think a little outside of the box with Saturn and Aquarius, but that's why the 0 degrees is so crucial right now, because you have this open doorway to pull new, unexpected, untraditional things through. So instead of being afraid of these changes, instead of being worried about what's going to happen, instead think, what can I do? How can I roll with these changes? How can I change myself? Because a lot of people right now are finding out, we can work from home, and we've been told for years that we can't. We're finding out that we can educate our children at home and in different ways. A lot of people complain about the educational system, about it doesn't teach what it needs to. Now is your chance. Especially Jupiter is that higher mind. Teach your kids the things you want to teach them: taxes, survivalism, cooking, how to sew a button. This is your chance to teach your kids how to survive in a new world, and be open, because they may be teaching you things at the same time. And like I said, I cannot stress enough how, even though Jupiter is conjunct Pluto, conjunct Mars, sextile Neptune, trine Venus, leave your ego out of it, because it is not touching the sun. If you want to use any part of the sun conjunct Chiron, heal those wounds of who you are and be willing and open to a new experience of who you are. Sorry, I keep my computer up so I can watch the transits. The moon is in Taurus today for the next couple days. Taurus it's a Venus sign. It's slow, it's methodical, it gets what it needs to get done on its time. Here, I'm going to change the lighting so you guys can see me better. Sorry, my computer decided to go dark on me. But anyway, so if you haven't started anything new with the new moon, Taurus isn't really the time to start anything new. Take some time to nourish self-love, especially new moon vibes can kind of be a little taxing. Nourish yourself a lot in this, because there is a lot of crazy going on, but also nourish those around you, because that's where the trine to Venus goes. Help those around you grow. That is the only way that, if these things continue to get crazier, that's the only way that we all go forward, is if we help each other. And that's another thing with Aquarius. Yes, there is social distancing. Yes, we are supposed to be staying away from each other, but there's nothing stopping you from dropping a roll of toilet paper at your neighbor's house because you've got an extra, or your neighbor having some fresh fruits to drop at your door. Community is going to be a big one, and it's going to be harder because we're distanced. And that's where that Saturn and Aquarius is going to pull in. We have to think of new ways to get through this, and Jupiter is going to help us. You just have to think a little smarter than you're used to, and you have to think a little more critically and spiritually. So the good news is Mars is moving away from Pluto, so there's not so much of the angsty Pluto-Mars vibes. Saturn is firmly in Aquarius, away from Pluto in Capricorn. There will be retrogrades that bring them back around, so this is not over. And that's why I stress this Jupiter now. Grow and expand and change now. That way, when the next wave comes, you can roll with the punches. And that's another big thing, is Jupiter belongs to, or rules over, two mutable signs. So Jupiter is not one that is going to stay fixed and, I'm so stuck and this sucks and nothing's going to be the same. It's going to keep moving. Jupiter is a traveler. Proverbially, I know we can't really travel right now. So be sure to take your time, grieve over what you need to, but now is the time to grow. Now is the time for change. I cannot say it enough. And Jupiter is going, especially with trine to Venus, is going to bless you in that. So if I jumped around too much and you couldn't follow me, please message me. I do apologize for being gone for so long. Please, please, please. I know I say this all the time, but it means more now than anything. Take care of yourselves, Moon and Taurus, and each other, Saturn and Aquarius.